Magic Ballerina. Delphie and the Birthday Show. Delphie's Adventures. Written by Darcey Bussel. Prologue. In the soft, pale light, the girl stood with her head bent and her hands held lightly in front of her. There was a moment's silence, and then the first notes of the music began. For as long as the girl could remember, music had seemed to tell her of another world, a magical, exciting world that lay far, far away. She always felt if she could just close her eyes and lose herself, then she would get there. Maybe this time. As the music swirled inside her, she swept her arms above her head, rose onto her toes and began to dance. 1. In class. Delphie sprang lightly into the air, crossing her feet over before she landed. Little jump, pas de chat, she thought as she sprang to the side like a cat. Stretch, bend and pas de chat. She landed without a single wobble, her shoulders down and her arms graceful, a smile on her face. Excellent, Delphie. Madame Zaza, her ballet teacher, exclaimed, clapping her hands together. Happiness rushed through Delphie as she relaxed and ran back to take her place beside the others in the class. Madame Zaza hardly ever said excellent. Delphie had been having lessons at Madame Zaza's ballet school for 7 months now. Madame Zaza had caught her watching outside the dance studio window one evening and asked her in. When she had seen Delphie dance, she had offered to teach her for free and had given her the clothes she needed and a pair of old red ballet shoes. Delphie looked down at her shoes. They were getting very tight, but she didn't want to have new ballet shoes because the red ones were magic. Every so often they would sparkle like rubies and whisk Delphie away to Enchantia, a magic land where all the characters from the different ballets lived. Delphie had had lots of adventures there. If I have new shoes, then I won't ever get to go to Enchantia again, she thought. She was also sure that the shoes helped her to dance really well. Trying to ignore her cramped toes, she focused on the girl who was dancing now. It was Rosa. She had only joined Madame Zaza's ballet school a couple of months ago. She was the youngest in the class but a really good dancer, and she was quickly catching up with everyone else. Delphie watched as Rosa completed the sequence. There was a wonderful energy about her dancing that Delphie really admired. Delphie smiled and put her thumbs up as Rosa hurried back to the group. Although Rosa grinned, most of the time she kept herself to herself and Delphie didn't feel she knew much about her. I should get to know her better, she thought. When the class finished, they all went back to the changing rooms, chatting amongst themselves. Delphie caught up with Rosa. Poppy and Lola are coming back to mine on Saturday after class. Would you like to come too? Rosa immediately shook her head. I can't. Delphie was a bit surprised at Rosa's abrupt reply. Oh, okay, well, you'll just have to come round another time then. She expected Rosa to nod, but Rosa didn't. No. I really can't, she said firmly. What? Not ever? Delphie frowned. No. Not ever. I've left my cardigan in the ballet studio. Rosa said suddenly. I'd better go and get it. And with that, she hurried off. Delphie stared after her. She had the feeling Rosa had been trying to escape from talking to her. But why? She went into the changing rooms feeling very confused. Are you okay? Lola asked, seeing her face. Delphie sat down beside her. I just asked Rosa if she wanted to come round on Saturday, but she said no, and then she said she couldn't ever come round. Lola and Poppy stared. That's weird, said Poppy. She's usually quite friendly. Delphie spoke in a low voice, keeping one eye on the door in case Rosa came in. I know. It's odd. I wonder why. But just then the door opened and Rosa came in. Delphie quickly changed the subject. Madame Zaza didn't say anything more about us wearing point shoes today, did she? The others shook their heads. A few days ago, Madame Zaza had told them that she thought some of the class were ready to start dancing on their points. It meant wearing special ballet shoes then that had blocks in the end so that they could stand right on their toes just like proper ballerinas. Delphie knew that it was important for people not to start using point shoes until their muscles were strong enough. Madame Zaza hadn't said who in the class was almost ready, but ever since she had mentioned it, Delphie, Poppy and Lola had been desperately hoping she meant them. My mom spoke to her when she collected me yesterday, said Lola. Madame Zaza said she was going to tell us more about it soon. Oh, I hope she says we're ready, said Poppy. Delphie nodded. She imagined what it must be like to dance lightly on the tips of your toes and sighed longingly. She couldn't wait to have point shoes. But I'll still keep my red ballet shoes, she thought. I'll still need normal shoes, so I'll wear them too. But they're too small, a little voice said in the back of her mind. No, they're not, Delphie thought firmly. She took them off and tried very hard to ignore the pain in her aching feet. 2. New shoes. When Delphie arrived at the ballet school the next day, the first person she saw was Rosa, walking down the road from the opposite direction. Most of the girls were dropped off by their parents, but Rosa always came on her own. Delphie always walked on her own too because she only lived a little way down the street. She waited for Rosa by the gate. Hi. Oh, hi, Rosa replied. Where do you live? Delphie asked curiously. In Hawkins Avenue, Rosa replied quickly. It's only a few minutes away. It's cool being able to walk here, isn't it? Said Delphie as they went up the steps and opened the big front door. I think my mom and dad are pleased they don't have to bring me. They're not really into ballet, although they do love coming to see me in shows. Do your parents like ballet? There's only me and my mom, Rosa said, shutting the door behind them. Mom loves ballet, but... She hesitated. Well, she can't really bring me here. She changed the subject. So, do you think Madame Zaza will tell you that you can wear point shoes soon? I hope so, replied Delphie. I'd love it if she said I could, Rosa said longingly. But I know she won't. My mom says I'm not ready yet. Your mom? Delphie echoed in surprise. Yes, she was a. But Rosa broke off as Madame Zaza came out of her office. Ah, Delphie. Can I have a word with you? Her teacher asked. Delphie exchanged startled looks with Rosa, but Madame Zaza was already walking back into her office. Leaving her friend to go on to the changing rooms, Delphie hurried after the teacher. Her heart pounded slightly. Maybe Madame Zaza was about to say something about point shoes. Madame Zaza sat down in her office and patted the sofa, her bangles jingling as she did so. Delphie sat down beside her. Delphie, I want to talk to you. I am delighted with the progress you are making, Madame Zaza said, smiling. When you first came here I could see you had talent, but as well as talent you have proved you have dedication. You work very hard, you are always here to practice before class, and this shows in your dancing. Her eyes met Delphie's. I believe it is time for you to start working on your points, so here you are. Delphie gasped in delight as Madame Zaza handed her a cardboard box. Inside it was a new pair of pink satin point shoes, nestling in white tissue paper. These are for you. Oh, wow. Delphie touched the beautiful shoes. You are moving on. Madame Zaza smiled. You must have new normal shoes too. The red ballet shoes will not fit you for much longer. Maybe they are too small already? Delphie's stomach tightened. No, They're fine. Madame Zaza looked at her searchingly. Delphie, at some point, you will have to move on to new shoes. Just as everyone who has ever owned them before you has done. Maybe you will even find someone to give your old shoes to. Delphie looked down. She didn't want to stop wearing the red shoes, and she certainly didn't want to give them to anyone else. Go and get ready for class now. Madame Zaza told her. You won't need your point shoes today. There are 6 of you in class who are ready to dance on points. I will be telling the others today, and then you will all start in a new class together next week. Delphie walked slowly out of the office. She knew she should be pleased she had point shoes. It was what she had been longing for, but suddenly she felt as if she was on the edge of a cliff. From now on, she'd be going to new classes, and maybe she wouldn't even be with Poppy and Lola, and at some point her feet really would get too big for the red ballet shoes. But I don't want to wear different shoes, she thought. I really don't want to. The changing rooms were empty. Rosa had already gone through to the dance studio to warm up. Delphie got changed. It was hard to get her shoes on, and her toes felt squeezed up at the end. But she couldn't give them up, she just couldn't. Then, suddenly, her feet started to tingle. Delphie gasped. The shoes were sparkling. She was about to go to Enchantia. She jumped up and felt herself twirling round. Bright colors spun about her as she was lifted into the air. She forgot all about the new point shoes and her red shoes being too small. Excitement rushed through her. Who was she going to meet this time? Would she see her friend the Sugar Plum Fairy? Or maybe Princess Aurelia? Or Cinderella? She couldn't wait to find out. 5. King Rat's Mischief. Delphie's feet touched firm ground, and, as the swirling colors faded, she realized she was in the courtyard of the royal palace. The pearly white turrets sparkling in the sun. At one end of the courtyard there was a stage with forest scenery and